If you've always let your spouse, quote, handle the money, and you're not sure what would happen if something was to happen to them, you're not alone. That's what we call the worried spouse personality type. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, I don't even know where I would start. The good news is we do. So this one hits home for me because I feel like this is my family. And I shared this story with some clients just a little while ago. In our household, I take care of the money because this is what I do for a living. So I handle the investing, I handle the bill pay, I handle the savings, I handle it all. And one day I was trying to get a shirt for my son, Nicholas, who's now 12 years old. And I asked my wife, Abby, I said, hey, Abs, what size shirt does Nicholas wear? And she kind of teased me. She goes, you really don't know? And I said, I have no idea. Then she goes, well, what size shoe does he wear? And I said, I have no idea. And then she really twisted the knife. She goes, what's his teacher's name? I said, I don't know. I still don't know that one. But then I paused for a second. I went, wait a minute. Where do we have our retirement savings? How much is in them? Well, how are we invested? Who is our mortgage with? How much do we have as savings in a rainy day fund? What's in our education fund for the kids, right? All the things that I do. And we had a fun laugh about it because we realized what has made our family work so well is that there's a strong division of labor. I take care of the money. She takes care of the family stuff, and together we have a great relationship and it works for us, right? And that works at our age to have that simple division. But here's why it works whether you're in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s or your 70s. I have a plan. My worried spouse knows, heaven forbid, if something happened to me, there is a binder for our trust, all of our investments, our plans, the whole 9 yards. Now, she thinks about that probably not that often because, again, we're a younger couple. But if we fast forward 20 years or 30 years, and now we're into our 60s or our 70s, and the reality is that if we're just being honest with ourselves, the idea of mortality is probably a stronger conversation in your late 70s and early 80s than it is in your 40s. And we hear this all the time from a spouse in their late 60s or 70s. They say, I don't know what I would do if something happened to my spouse. Because one spouse has handled the money for decades. They handle all the investing. They handle the relationship with the advisor if they have one. They handle the savings. They handle the bill pay. And the spouse is at the age now where they're seeing or hearing stories of friends or family where their spouse passed away before the person that this client knows. And that changes the conversation completely because it brings it home and makes it real. And they say, wait a second, I'm gonna make up a name here. If my husband, John, who handles all the investing, tracks the market himself daily, if he was to pass away tomorrow, I don't even know where I'd start. I don't know where we have accounts. I've never talked to our financial advisor. If there is one, as I said, I wouldn't know how to pay the bills. I don't know what would happen with Social Security. I don't know what would happen with his pension. And the part that honestly breaks my heart when I hear these stories, because it's probably the most common of all the personality types, especially where we live here in Utah, is that I'm gonna say 8 times out of 10, that family is in a really good position financially. It's just one person has no idea how it's all working. They have no idea how it all comes together. And so that fear, that uncertainty is making it hard for them to enjoy the life they've earned at this stage of life. And so one of the things that's been really, really beneficial for these clients, how our Retire Forward process has brought them clarity and confidence, which are the 2 phrases that I always try and focus on, because to me, if you don't have clarity or confidence, what's the point of retiring, guys, right? We worked 20, 30, 40 years. We got to have clarity and confidence. But a plan that takes it all together, a simple household overview that says, hey, there are 5 key pillars to a successful retirement: investments, income, taxes, healthcare, and legacy or estate planning. And a simple, straightforward household overview that looks at all 5 and says, here's what you've done for each of them. Here's how they're all connected. Here is a binder with your information inside of it. Here's your written financial plan. Here's your point of contact. Here's your relationship with your partner in financial planning, in our case, Momentum Wealth. And here is everything you need to move forward in your retirement with confidence, because although John handles everything, Susan still knows what's going on if something happens to him, heaven forbid. And again, guys, I've talked to clients all the time. I'm not gonna be morbid, but let's just be honest here. More times I can count, I've heard clients say, hey, you know what? The goal is that we both go to sleep at 90 years old and we don't wake up, right? Together. No one wants to leave their spouse behind and no one wants to be left. But we have to plan for these things. We have to have an actionable plan with a strong partnership relationship that can step in if something happens to one of the spouses So the surviving spouse is not going to worry, will my lifestyle decrease now that I've lost my spouse? If my taxes are going to change, will they change for the better or for the worse? And for most people, it's actually for the worse because they go from a joint tax return to a single file tax return. So their taxes actually go up even though they lose one of the Social Securities. There's just a lot of planning that needs to happen so we can clean up ownership, have clarity on who has what, where it is, how it works, what happens if this one turns off or this one turns on. All of these things need to be brought together. And the worried spouse is just, they're literally begging to know that everything's gonna be okay. That's what it comes down to. It's actually not a money conversation. It's a purely emotional, guttural, am I gonna be okay if something happens to my spouse? And of all of the personality types we've been discussing in this series, I feel like having a written plan with a partner firm who is walking hand in hand into and through retirement, this personality type is the one who benefits from the most. And the scary part, the really scary part, is that the studies show that a majority of women, because statistically men pass away before women, but the studies show that a majority of women will change financial advisors after their spouse dies because they had no relationship with the advisor their spouse was working with. So number one, maybe 10, 20 years of hard work that the spouse who passed put into it is gone because now they just go to someone else who might not know what they were doing, why they were doing it, and how it works. But more importantly, this surviving spouse is going out on their own with no experience in this world, this industry of ours, right? This world, the financial side, and they're gonna go shop around for advisors who they got to develop a relationship with in their 70s or 80s. It's not the time to be doing that. Now, we see that all the time. We brought on a wonderful woman earlier this year who that was exactly what happened. Her husband took care of everything. He passed away shortly after their retirement. She's been a gem to work with, but she needed guidance. And she mentioned that it would have been really nice to have someone from the very beginning so that she didn't have to feel like she was starting over. So the Retire Forward process is built specifically to give that clarity and confidence to both husband and wife to make sure that no matter who lives the longest, or heaven forbid who passes away first, both mom and dad can move forward with confidence in retirement to enjoy all the hard work they put into getting to this point. So if you're not crystal clear on how your finances work, or more importantly, how your investments work, or how your income would work if your spouse was to pass away, like this video, reach out to us, let's sit down and let's do an audit on your situation and make sure that spouse A and spouse B both have the confidence they need to enjoy the retirement they've worked so hard for. Look forward to the conversation.